From multiple familiar locations in Minneapolis or near enough, this is Nice Games Club, the show where nice game devs talk gaming and game development. I'm Ellen Burns-Johnson, and I make nice games.
I'm Steve McGregor, and I make nice games.
And I'm Arthur Croy, I too make nice games.
In this episode, we talk once again with Andy, Beth, and Gabe Korth to discuss families in games. And so, if everyone is ready, let's start.
Welcome, y'all! It's been a while.
It's been about 100 episodes. Have we had you in the interim? I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Because we had you on to talk about
Writing.
Narrative.
Oh,
yeah, narrative.
Yeah, I feel like we've been recurring characters on the podcast more than just once. Yeah.
So, longtime listeners will know the Korths because they were on our very second episode of the program.
Yes.
Over 4 years ago now.
Yeah.
Wow. Over 4 years ago.
Yeah, you can tell it's really old too because it was about Steam Greenlight.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you had just, or it had been a while. You'd taken Verdant Skies, the game that you created together, through Steam Greenlight. We talked to you about that process, and then 2 years later, we had you back for episode 102, and I don't remember what we talked about then.
That would have been after the launch of Verdant Skies, I think.
I think that was the code comment.
I think that was the code comment, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for Code Comment was a video series we did where we had developers come on and poke into the guts of their software. And so we went through that. I remember your texture atlas being extensive.
Yeah.
That very specifically.
Absolutely. A lot of good
and we made a
pictures.
promise to you then. We said, we're going to have you back for 202. And we very nearly did it. But instead, this is 204.
So close.
It's close enough.
Thereabouts. We'll have you for 302 or 304 or maybe 306.
One of those.
One of those, whatever. But also it's cool to have you back because you have little Gabe with you, who was in the studio when we recorded that second episode and in 102. And Gabe is just a little older than the show itself, so it's kind of interesting that he's sort of. Eventually, we'll have him on and interview him about his latest release.
Yeah, just keep it going. Hey, Gabe, do you want to say hi to everybody?
He is
he's coming.
currently on the Switch.
He's coming.
Oh, here he comes.
All right, say hi to him.
Say hello.
Hi.
Hey,
Hi,
Gabe.
Hey, Gabe.
What are you playing?
What's on the Switch? What are you playing on the Switch?
Minecraft.
Minecraft.
Classic.
What are you making? What are you building?
Just making this snowman.
Snowman?
Snowman?
Oh,
Okay.
That's cool.
Cool.
Yeah, making them they're gonna kill the pillager.
They're going to fight with the pillagers, yeah.
Oh, well.
They're gonna go arrow in the face.
Yeah.
Okay.
Solid strategy.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's what he does, is he spawns different mobs to fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a gladiator arena or something, I think he likes to do. I don't know exactly. But he likes it.
Listeners can hear Gabe's first appearance where there's adorable cooing, and then Gabe's second appearance where there's a lot of fart noises. now Gabe has graduated to full sentences on the air. It's pretty exciting.
Yep.
These are good clips for when he's a teenager.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, he's going to love that.
That's great.
Okay, well, dispensing with the history of your time on the program, what are you here to talk about today?
Well, we're going to talk about gaming as a family, what works well for playing with Gabe, games that haven't worked well, board games that have been a lot of fun,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and I think we'll touch on like some kinds of educational content and what we think that means, what's right for our family playing with Gabe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. Well, what games do you play as a family?
Well, the big one is definitely Minecraft. now.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that really ramped up when he hit 4.
Yep.
Okay.
Mostly because we had been trying to limit his screen time games when he was younger. And so the reason that we kind of ramped up the Minecraft is like he turned 4 during the pandemic. So he didn't get a lot of social interaction with his friends and stuff. And as much as he loves hanging out with me and Andy, one of his other little friends who's like, I think he's a year older or pretty close to, plays Minecraft also. So we started having them have like little play dates where he would log into Discord and his friend's dad would log that kid into Discord too. And so they would play on our server Minecraft together and like build things. There's like kids zone that Andy made for them to like hang out in so they don't destroy all the things that people spent years making. But they still have a lot of fun doing it. And I think that Gabe really like latched on to that. So we let him play it on the Switch too, independently in creative mode. So yeah, that's when it took over, was when he didn't have a lot of other things to do with his buddies.
And yeah, I mean, I know that Minecraft is just super popular with kids. I have a couple of cousins who play Minecraft or Minecraft knockoffs and things and watch people stream Minecraft, and it's like a whole thing.
It's a whole culture. Yep.
Yeah.
Hermitcraft. That is Gabe's favorite YouTube videos. Is he loves watching those guys talk about what you can make in Minecraft, and he made, what did he make? Like a TNT replicator or something? Like he will make things that they do in the videos that I'm like, I can't make that.
He has
That's
made
so cool.
Yeah, legit redstone stuff. And he watches the video and then, he turns the video off and goes play Minecraft. So he's not even making it from reference. He's just kind of like, yeah, he made some piston doors.
Yeah.
Fairly reliably, he can make a piston door.
Wow.
Yeah. That's cool. It's one of the things I've heard from people is Minecraft's ability to like teach people how to learn. Right? Because like as you build and create, like there's trial and error and all of that, the process of how the game is designed. That's why it's so suitable for kids.
Yeah. And it's really easy for a kid to hop into Minecraft and have fun without knowing a lot about Minecraft. But it also presents a whole lot of systems mastery sort of things, just because there are so many complicated rules in Minecraft that you can benefit from when you actually learn about them. I mean, things like spawning rate. What Gabe was telling us, different mobs will die depending on how high they have to fall.
The kill height.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you have to, if you push a skeleton into a pit, it has to be 28 blocks or whatever before the skeleton dies. But zombies will die at this height. And chickens have wings, so they flap their wings so they don't die from falling from high places.
Oh.
So he's counting out blocks and making holes in the ground of specific heights because that's something he learned about.
This is Gabe's Minecraft.
Yep.
And he also has been learning a lot more, like, so letters and stuff was really boring for him. Like when I try and get him to sit down and like do it with like school lessons, but like he will have to in creative mode type in the block or whatever he wants. And so he'll be like, Mom, how do you spell
item frame?
Yeah, item frame or whatever. And it's like, how do you think it's spelled? So it's like really actually something I can use to kind of cheat him into learning something about how words sound and how you spell them. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh man, that totally reminds me like how programmers will say they'll read the documentation and they'll come away knowing nothing. But as soon as they need it on their project, then you learn it like in an instant. Like,
yeah. You need a meaningful challenge and a context. It's really cool to hear you guys talk about like the way that he is required to interact with the system, because in him interacting with the system in that way, he's also building like this framework that he'll be able to expand later when he's asked to engage with similar tools with the real world, right? So like 28 blocks for a zombie to die. I don't remember if that was it. I'm sure Gabe would correct me.
He could tell us,
yeah. Like you just rephrase that and it becomes a math problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep, that's why I don't feel too bad about letting him play. It is educational in a way.
Yeah. Well, people talk about like, as generations turn over, like what does screen time mean? Like when we were all kids, it just meant television, right? And how like I'm sure you've had this like crisis of like how do you adjust to this when there isn't decades of research on what's good for kids, and like even 10 or even 15 years ago there wasn't a game like Minecraft to that represented what screen time was, right?
Mhm.
It was, and so it's just, you kind of have to navigate it yourselves, right?
Yeah, and I think, being in pandemic and like, this is his social activity. This is the way he can communicate with others. You really have to view it through the lens of, what he's getting from different categories of screen time, really.
Mhm.
Right. We've digitized so much of what the world is that there isn't that much different from playing outside and playing outside in Minecraft, right? I mean,
Right.
Yeah, before we had all his classes are now virtual. I think he's laughing. Before all of his classes became virtual and stuff, like the amount of time he'd spend like on the iPad or on my laptop or everything was like way less. But so now I break it up kind of like his Minecraft time is separate from like his school time. Like I don't count his like school Zoom calls as screen time at all because like that's school.
Mhm.
And then like if he wants to watch some PBS Kids videos or whatever, it's like that's mildly educational television. Like I used to watch a lot of TV when I was a kid, so I kind of break that up separate from his gaming time. And then like him gaming on the Switch by himself versus him playing with his friend, like I also like go, oh, well, you played a lot on the Switch, but like this is with your friend, so like this is more of a social time than like gaming time. And so it's really hard, but like at the same time I'm also very like giving ourselves grace because this is really hard. We can't go to the park as much as we used to or take him out to like the children's museum and stuff like that. Like he loved doing those things, but like I'm not comfortable taking him to those places even when they are open. So it's really hard.
It's interesting. It's interesting though. I do think that like partly maybe because of the pandemic, so maybe more so in the last 12 months or how long has it been?
Let's not answer.
Not even a year, but yeah.
A year. I think our
100,000 years
to an eternity of pandemic purgatory. I think like cultural understanding and beliefs around screen time have become more nuanced, right? Because I think there was a period of time where older generations maybe associated computers with productivity and then video games and TV with nothing, just kind of wasted time. But now we're going beyond just like what it looks like externally for someone who's just watching a human body sit in front of a screen and actually thinking about what the mind is doing, what the brain is doing, engaging with the activity that's coming through on the screen. And there's just so much variety. As Mark was saying, like we've translated so many things that you could at one point only do out in the physical world to meaningful and rich digital experiences. Like your brain is doing all sorts of stuff depending on what you're doing online. So I think it totally makes sense what you're saying. And I don't, I can't think of many people who would just reject that out of hand,
Sure.
Yeah, even the educators, they're like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So have y'all like played Minecraft with Gabe?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's that experience like? I'm really curious.
Oh yeah.
There are varying levels of enjoyment for every family member depending upon what we are doing when we play with him. If we are hanging out in the kids zone, I have a lot less fun because it's like a gladiator arena for Gabe. He likes to give me a shortcut home, which is meaning he likes to kill me. And then I go back to spawn and then I have to go back to the kids zone. But like if we're building something and I have to keep him from destroying what we're building, it's not quite as bad. It's still game focused.
We have a set of command blocks that will lock the kids to the certain radius around the kid zone where they can do whatever they want. And they'll build things that vaguely look like buildings, and they'll name all the locations and they'll describe like, oh yeah, I'm going to my bedroom, and they both know where that is, even though like it's hard to, as an adult, to like, oh, that's okay, that's your bedroom. All right, sure. And between the two kids, they seem to have worked out a way for them to play together with fairly few arguments. Accidentally picking up each other's things, they can usually work that out. With adults, Gabe's more in the mindset of, I'm allowed to hit you with my sword, but you're not allowed to hit me with your sword.
Because we're grown-ups.
Right.
Yeah, which is something we haven't
rules.
worked out yet. But he will also turn off that and let him run around with us in the real world. And it's basically the same thing as letting your kid run around at the mall. It's like, yes,
don't touch that.
You can run around and look at things, but you need to be ready to stop them from grabbing that glass ornament off of whatever and throwing it on the ground. Like,
Yeah.
So one adult is on 100% duty of chasing around Gabe and being like, okay, yep, nope, go this way. All right. Yep, don't take anything out of that chest. Like,
but it's important too, because like when we're doing those kind of projects, one of the things that like is a big deal for Gabe is to be helpful. So like you give him a job, and even if it's the job that's not really related, like, oh, Gabe, we need to go get red clay. Let's go get some red clay. We're not going to use the red clay for anything, but like Gabe and I can go get some red clay and like let Andy build something. And when we get back, it's like, look what Dad built. Oh, that's so great. Like give him tasks so he feels like he's helping.
Yeah.
Even if the helping is just not breaking things.
I mean, that is an important task if you grew up with my family.
Yeah.
For sure.
Right, because there's like multiple definitions of like or multiple avenues to satisfaction in like in an experience like that. It's like building something is satisfying, destroying something is satisfying, surviving through the night is satisfying.
Yeah.
And so like different people have different approaches, but then as parents, you want Gabe to find satisfaction in helping. And so you know, you want to encourage those things.
And it's the same thing. Like he sets the table, he does napkins and silverware, and like that's his job. And you know, it's the same thing as like that, but in a video game.
He wants to say something.
Oh yeah,
buddy. Yeah.
Are you gonna share?
Don't tell it to them. Is it a secret? Okay, just a second then.
A podcast secret.
You want to just tool around in the kids zone? Oh, okay. Shoot.
Oh yeah. Okay. Fart jokes are funny, guys.
Jokes are
you
funny.
heard it here first.
That's the Gabe I remember.
Just never gets old.
It's a secret. I like to toot around in the kids zone. Okay.
We won't tell anyone, Gabe.
Nope.
That's some quality, comedy there too, like double meaning and everything. He's yucking above his grade level.
That's one thing. Our son is funny.
Yeah.
To himself, at least, if not other people.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking about Minecraft and thinking of it like in terms of like the decisions that they made for the design of it, it sounds like, I mean, as Mark was saying, like there's a bunch of different goals that you can have, and like I imagine depending on what your family likes and what each individual family member enjoys, like there's something for everybody in Minecraft. Like y'all were saying, Gabe likes to destroy stuff, whereas Andy likes building things. So it kind of sounds like a good design decision to like make a family oriented video game is to add in those different goals, those different like avenues for success or fun.
Yeah. And I guess I personally have a preference towards sandbox games, but I think they do work really well in that family setting for exactly that reason. Especially any sandbox game with kind of a low barrier to entry. Because kids, especially, like the younger they are, the better they are at setting their own goals and doing what they want to be fun, want to feel is fun, without having, adults. You'll see like, what am I supposed to do now in this game? Like, what's my task? And it's like, just have fun. Kids are like, yeah, I wasn't going to do what you told me anyway.
It's actually funny that you said that in that order, Stephen, where it's Gabe likes to destroy things and Andy likes to build things. It just made me think of like when he was a kid with his block towers too. Like we would build them just for him to break up. Oh, and it's like learning the same skill set over digitally, kind of, I guess. So, like you can still break the things we build.
Sounds like Gabe might have a future as an explosion czar.
There we go.
It's quite possible.
We'll bring him out as an executive consultant for the next widget satchel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ellen, you'll have to find something else to do.
I'll follow his design direction. I'm good with that.
Yeah. Well, Stephen, even the way you phrased the question about like what a designer brings to a game that can work in a context like this.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, famously, Minecraft wasn't designed to be a kid-friendly game.
Right.
It found that and ran with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think, like, I don't know that there are, like, this idea of, like, building a game which is the equivalent of taking your kid to the park.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, like, what the possibilities are for a designer who starts from that. And I don't know that there are any examples necessarily where, like, something you can play with your kids, but isn't something where you can also enjoy yourself and actually build something, should do something. And if it isn't purely a sandbox experience, what is even possible?
Well, there is Fortnite. It is an extremely popular game that a bunch of kids play.
Right. Also unexpectedly.
Yeah. That wasn't built for that either. But like that, I mean, that has a lot of similarities to Minecraft, or at least it did. I think like the original plan was that like you'd have a building section and a zombies are coming section like Minecraft does, but like it switched to the battle royale format, and that's like the main mode of gameplay now.
Right.
But like it still has that building aspect in it, so it's a little sandboxy too. You kind of just run around in the playground and just make sure you don't lose to others. So it kind of works in a similar manner. I don't know.
Yeah, and I actually now I wonder how much of the building aspect of Fortnite was inspired by how popular Minecraft was with everybody at the time they were making Fortnite.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I do know that like kids, from what I have heard from a lot of people, kids tend to be way better at the building aspects of it than adults are. Which is weird. Maybe not that weird, but like like they're really good at like defensively building themselves a fortress so they don't get shot at by enemies. Or
Yeah. They're probably less precious about it.
That might be part of it, actually.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how it looks; it's functional.
Yeah.
Yep.
And or they've spent the last few years training themselves in Minecraft.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if I've told this on the show before, but one of my nephews is really into Fortnite, and he's 8-ish at this point, and that still feels really young to be playing a shooter for me. But but one of the things that's interesting to see him do, and that my sister will talk about, is like how he's like learning leadership skills. Like when he has plays with his friends, and they're on it, and they either a temporary alliance or there are team modes in that game, I believe. But like the way he will like help others and sort of be the marshal of the group. It's like, that's okay. I see some actual value in there maybe that's just so my sister doesn't feel so bad about letting him play Fortnite, but
yeah.
Like, all this is unintended, right? Like that's sort of the heart of the question that I was asking is like, has this ever been done on purpose?
Yeah.
I mean, Roblox is maybe the best example. I'm not very familiar. I just know that it was definitely designed for kids.
That's true. Yeah, and I think Roblox is kind of like an MMO version of Minecraft, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know a lot about Roblox either, but I mean, they did just have that Lil Nas X concert in it, so like it's pretty popular.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of kids who still play Roblox, and I think anytime you give a game enough variety where players can express themselves in a lot of different ways, you're creating opportunities for people to kind of play how they want in them. And I think that's what's going on in a large part with Roblox. And I don't know, you kind of see it in games like 7 Days to Die, where it's like you can turn off zombies and play the game with no zombies if you want. Then you're just like making sure you got enough food and water as time passes. Stuff like that. It's not appropriate for Gabe's age right now. Sure. Definitely. It's a super scary game.
Yeah.
But those kind of mechanics. And I mean, for me, as a child, I remember the game Spelunks, which came out in like 1991. And it was essentially, it was built on HyperCard and some of its successors. And it's totally a sandbox game where you go into these caves and you find these rooms full of interesting mini games. But the mini games are all they're you're mostly not completing for scores. They're like exploring things. Like you can create lightning, 500 meters away or 1,000 meters away, and you'll see the flash, and you wait for the sound to come back. So in something like that, there's a pretty clear singular lesson that they're kind of letting you explore and figure out. But then some of the mini games are a lot broader. Gabe was playing yesterday, and it's like you're putting down food for ants, and there's a lizard that'll eat the ants, and you can put rocks around to block the path of the ants. So you're just kind of playing with that, and that kind of game is like a systems mastery. You're figuring like, what do the ants do? How do they move? What blocks the ants? When does the lizard eat the ants? So you're kind of learning about those sorts of things.
So it the impression I'm getting then, like you said, Andy, is like self-expression is very important in these kinds of games. And I'm reminded of when I was younger, I used to play like Roller Coaster Tycoon and SimCity and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
And I don't remember like what I did in those cities. I might have just like caused a bunch of disasters because I don't know, I like blowing things up. But
isn't that the point?
Maybe.
Part, yeah.
But like that, I mean, that is those kinds of games allow you to express creativity through the game itself as well. And I don't think those were built for kids particularly either, but I mean, like, I'm sure they weren't like shying away from that audience. So I think that's an aspect of it that like could be successful.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Gabe getting more into. I mean, we played a little City Skyline together when he was really young, which was mostly, which to be fair, Gabe was mostly enthused about the ability for you to dump your sewage into various different lakes. That was his favorite part of the game.
He called it Poop City, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, part of the game is Poop City. But once he gets older, where he can, those games have a little more. There tends to be a little more complexity in the controls and a little more understanding. You probably need pretty decent reading skills. So it'll be another year or two before he gets into that kind of thing. But I'm sure he'll really enjoy those types of games.
Yeah. I think about when I was a child, like, and what was available to me. And like, I'm trying to think of the first time I played SimCity. Certainly I was younger than 10, I think, but not that much younger. So that's still relative. That's much younger than that. I think there wasn't really much of anything in our day.
Yeah.
But I think about like what I did a lot when I was just starting to get into stuff like that. And I was definitely a person who, when I played with action figures, I like to set up scenes. Like I was rather than like play with them, like actually in action, I would like, it's like I was a film director, but I didn't ever call to action, right? I would like to set it up. And then later when I got older, I would do like stop motion on a camcorder or whatever. But like, those are the things I wanted in games when I was young. And something like SimCity, the first time, I do remember the first time I was playing, it was difficult to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that frustrated me a lot. Like that, I just want to do this. And the game didn't give me enough of a context to be able to understand why that was or wasn't possible. And I think that like, that's something that games that, Minecraft in particular, and I haven't played Minecraft in a long, long time, but so I should take another look at it and actually see, because my memory of it is like, it actually, I'm surprised, I guess, at how well kids have taken to it, because it doesn't seem all that much less complicated than something like SimCity.
Yeah, it's like in Minecraft, a lot of it is really opaque, and that's probably why kids enjoy watching videos about Minecraft, so they can learn how to play it.
Okay,
they want to play. So like, it's strange because Minecraft isn't just a game; it's a whole ecosystem.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not the case for a lot of smaller games, especially.
Right.
I guess, like, even without any of that mastery, you can interact with Minecraft at some level. Whereas SimCity, if you're kind of randomly placing roads and zones and stuff like that, it's just not going to work.
Yeah. Like, need more industry. Like, okay,
Right.
how? Like,
Yeah.
maybe that's what it is. It's like to have an experience that is, that doesn't demand you get better at it.
Yeah.
And like lets you take it at your own pace. That might be the secret to it.
And you can kind of see, like, I'd say, like, SimCity 5, which was mostly unpopular, probably took steps in that direction of, being a lot simpler and probably just working if you're a kid,
I think the whole metaphor, I mean, SimCity, it's right there in the name. The assumption is you're making a city, and that comes with a few different expectations, right? You're going to have buildings and roads and infrastructure and poop tunnels and whatever else.
Yep.
Minecraft doesn't really have that. And I also wonder if the first person nature of Minecraft is another factor in making it more immediately fun for kids.
Sure.
If you're missing like the mental schema of what a city is and what it like takes to make it, SimCity can't be fun. If you like swinging things and hitting blocks, Minecraft is fun.
Yeah.
Right. And then you're in a world that you're comfortable, and then it almost not. This is an exaggeration, but it like almost doesn't matter the complexity ahead of you because you're comfortable in the setting, and then you're willing to go on board with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's fun already, and then you can experiment and learn and have more different types of fun.
And that really, if that is true, that the secret is something that kids and families can enjoy from jump, and then can be sustainable as it gets more complicated. But if it's true that what is ahead of them is less important than that initial spark, then that puts a lot of responsibility on the designer, because they have, once you've got that spark and that they've been sort of captured, then you can give them whatever you want.
Yeah.
And so it's important to give them something that, and this is even apart from like the developmental responsibilities of child development, is just about like not giving them something that teaches the wrong lesson or encourages sort of antisocial behavior or anything like that. And it's a different responsibility than say like someone making a children's TV show necessarily has. I think because it's like once you're in it, it probably takes a lot to take you from it.
That is a lot of responsibility for like a designer to manage, because like it's you can't really predict. I mean, it's difficult enough predicting how players are going to approach games. It's even more so if your player is 4 years old. So
right.
So like that makes the challenge even harder. And I think you're right. Like, I think it's even more important to pay attention to like the different kinds of lessons and messages that you would be sending players at that point, because like it could teach someone the wrong message if you don't do it correctly. Yeah.
Well, Fortnite's one where I think that's kind of difficult, because I think unlike Minecraft, where like Microsoft and Mojang have really leaned into it being a kids and family game, I think Epic is still kind of holding onto the fiction that Fortnite is not a kids game. And so I don't know that they're taking that as seriously. And you have, like microtransactions and the focus on like on the cosmetics, and that having a social impact on kids in the real world and stuff like that. Which is not something that they're designing for or against, right?
Well, I think there's an obligation as like a parent though in that situation. If Epic didn't design the game to be a kids game and you're letting your kids play it, then you're responsible for telling them that cosmetics aren't important and that it's not okay to shoot people and that kind of stuff, and that like microtransactions are just a thing that like, no, you can't spend money on this game or whatever. Like, it's your responsibility as a parent. Like, at the end of the day, people can design whatever they want in games. And as a game designer, I feel like I can say that. Like, I can make a game and not intend kids to play it. And if someone lets their kid play it, that's not my responsibility to make sure that everything in that game is okay. Because like writing for Verdant Skies was the same thing. Kids love that game. But there are some adult themes in it, and I didn't take them out because I saw that at cons, most of the people playing it were kids, because it's not designed for that. It's designed for that, like, you can let your kid play with it or whatever, but like at the end of the day, I made the game I wanted to, and it's a parent's responsibility to make sure that it's okay for their kid to play that.
Right.
Very true. Yeah. Yeah, I know that like a bunch of my friends like played, I don't know, Silent Hill and stuff when they were 10. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they grew up just fine, I think. But no, yeah, I completely agree with you, Beth. I think if you are, and yeah, I guess Fortnite is different because like it's not explicitly for kids. I don't think that they're leaning away from kids or anything like that. But it's not really built strictly for kids. Whereas like Minecraft is much more leaned towards a child demographic.
Yeah,
right.
So,
It's a kids game parents can have fun in, but
yeah,
at the end of the day, it's still a kids game. It's a simple sandboxy thing that kids could play.
Yeah,
I would say the one thing that separates a game like Fortnite from most games, and the way Beth describes being like the game designer shouldn't be hamstrung necessarily by what their audience is. That doesn't seem artistically fair.
Yeah,
but as an ongoing experience, something that needs money to pay the server bills, like Fortnite knows that its audience is there and spending money. I think it might be a little different, and like in the sense that if it's sort of letting that happen, if that makes sense. But I don't know. I'm not certain how strongly I feel about that.
Sure.
Because if that's what they want to make, I mean, that's, I don't know.
There are a lot of companies that prey on children, and I don't know, like if we should hold game designers at a higher standard than other toy companies, or food companies for that matter. Like I mean, I don't know. Like I am torn on it too, but I ethically responsible for their audience. I don't know, like if I would hold Epic to that.
Sure. Right. And I guess as someone who doesn't have a child, I always think of like what I don't think about the parent's responsibility, because that's not a position I'm ever in. So I kind of I'm less likely to weight that heavily in the equation.
Well, there are games that we let Gabe watch Andy play, and there are games that we don't let him watch us play. So like Gabe will watch, what's that one with the like building defense, like a tower defense game that you guys play? I don't remember.
I don't know.
It's not like there's like tower defense. It's not super violent, right? But then like we don't let him watch me play Overwatch or Andy play Call of Duty. Like that's not something that we're comfortable with. But like there are parents who do, and I mean it's not Blizzard's responsibility to decide. Oh, there's a lot of kids playing Call of Duty. We should make it nicer or whatever. Like I mean, they're a company and they're making money, and like at the end of the day, I think the responsibility does fall on the parents to decide what they're okay with their kids seeing and what they're not.
And you can kind of figure out how your kid responds to it too. As individual kids are different. Like Gabe gets pretty wound up from that kind of more than you'd think. It's I don't think it's like a long-term effect on like, he's going to be intrinsically more violent because he saw some active violence in a video game. But it's just like, giving him a bunch of sugar before bed.
Sure,
like, I don't need you throwing stuff at me and yelling like laser beam, laser beam, like throwing heavy toys at me. It's like, okay, just nope.
Yeah, like there's always been the argument about like violent media, and I think that there is definitely a difference between depicted violence and then the effect that like adult themes or violent imagery has on kids. It isn't about mimicry, right? Like you say, it's like a sugar rush, and that's not, you're not worried about Gabe, going to do violence, but like it presents a tone, and it has different and more nuanced effects that I think that as an industry we're very much like, nope, we had that argument in the 90s. Violent video games don't cause violence, and there's been studies and everything, but I think that we then tend to be less. We were more critical of any argument that leans in that direction. I think. Right,
and like a lot of those studies are like, have the kid watch a violent video and then give them, a Nerf gun, and the study is, do they shoot the Nerf gun at the stuffed animal? Yes or no? And they use that as a predictor if they're going to be a school shooter in 10 years. And those two things do not line up that way.
Yeah.
Well, and then there's also studies that show like that games can improve empathy and stuff like that. So, I mean, we're still learning.
Yeah.
Definitely.
A game I would recommend is Robotron, because all you do is save people. and it's very hard.
Oh, Into the Breach. That was Gabe's
okay.
favorite game for some reason.
Yeah.
Into the Breach. Oh, okay.
He would force me to play it. It's like, yeah, I'll play that with you. And then it was like, really again? It's like, okay. And then it's like, all right, Gabe, let's do something else.
That's funny.
But I think he gets like hooked on certain games because there was a while like we played that Yoshi's Crafted World for like days, and then like Kirby, was it Star Allies? Yeah, Star Allies.
I love
Like
that
we would play those forever. Like he picks a game that he likes and then like makes you help him play it if he can't play it himself.
Yeah, so some of that's kind of hit or miss. Some of those are games that didn't work as a family, maybe.
I mean, they worked kind of as a family. Like the Crafted World is 2-player, so we couldn't play as a whole family.
Right.
But like there would be levels that were too hard for him anyways.
Doesn't that game also have a super assist mode where all the pits get covered?
You kind of can't die and stuff. Yeah.
But of course, then you're catering to the player who needs that, and if you're playing co-op, then you're having less of an enjoyable experience.
It gets a little more boring if you play.
Yeah.
And actually, there's a lot of things Gabe loved about the Kirby game, but it was one of the games that he wanted a sandbox, and it's much more a guided, specific experience.
Right.
So what Gabe wanted to just switch around between different people and play the person he wants and kind of run back and forth and do stuff like that. So he didn't want to be Kirby often. So he would log in a second controller and he'd play the second player so he could be someone other than Kirby. And Kirby would just sit there.
And so he would be like, Mom, play Kirby. Mom, play Kirby so we can move. Mom, play Kirby.
Or he'd like slide Kirby over and then he'd switch and he'd play this guy on the screen for a little bit and then he'd slide Kirby over on the other controller. So it's like switching controllers.
Yeah.
Because like he wanted that sandbox experience, and it's a platformer. You go through the level, and then the other games that are just like, okay, I'm gonna watch you play. It's like, I don't want to play this game, Gabe.
Yeah, it's a very different. Like, I mean, both of you as game designers and gamers, like that's a very different experience than most kids his age have.
Yeah.
Right. But also to like being so amenable to gaming in your own lives, to be told by your kid to play games and you don't want to. That's not a very common experience on either end, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Hey, Steven.
Hey, Dale. What's up?
I wanted to tell you to follow me on Twitter. And by me, I mean Nice Games Club at Nice Games Club.
Okay. At Nice Games Club. Okay, but why should I do that?
I post all sorts of interesting stuff, like jokes. And did you know your brother is nominated for an Accessibility in Games Award?
He is? Really?
Yes! And if you follow me now at Nice Games Club, you'll know if he won or not.
Okay, shoot. I better do that right now so I can learn about this. It's what's the Twitter account again?
At Nice Games Club. It's sure to come up at Christmas with your family.
Probably. You know, we talk about a lot of things, arguing and stuff, and in between arguments, you bring it up. Yes, I will. I am following at Nice Games Club right now.
Excellent.
That actually, one of the questions on our list of things we wanted to talk about was what kind of conversations happen between you three as a family from playing these games. I mean, and just as, you know, Mark brought up, like, you're game designers. So I imagine the conversations you're having with Gabe are a lot richer than the conversations that non-developers are having around the games that they are playing with, or, you know, with their kids, or that they're seeing their kids play. So I'm curious kind of what comes up and what interesting insights have you heard from Gabe as part of those conversations?
Yeah, well, we talk about consent a lot.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah.
So that was one of the really funny discussions I had with Gabe too. So in Minecraft, when he plays with his little friend, so we described PvP for him because they fight or whatever. And I said, you can't PvP without his consent, or whatever. And so he was like, what's PvP? And then he wrote down PvP when he was like doing some art later. And I was like, what do these letters mean? And he's like, PvP, you know, like when I attack Rowan. And I was like, oh, no, it's V, player versus player. Like you're fighting each other. And he's like, oh, okay. So like explaining game mechanics is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, we like, I don't know, Gabe was really upset when two of our other adult friends were playing Minecraft and defeating each other. And it's like, oh no, are they not friends? Are they like, no, they consented to this. They were having a contest. They were playing together. And this is how they chose to play the game, even if you don't want to play the game that way. They both decided that. So there's a lot of that stuff comes up repeatedly.
Yeah. Like you can't decide to PvP and then say you don't want to PvP once you've killed somebody. Like once you defeat them, like they get a chance to defeat you back. Like
Yeah.
Very funny. Yeah. Like you can't change the rules mid-game, and that comes up with board games too. Like we were playing, Don't Spill the Beans? And like you're not supposed to have beans, but halfway through Gabe's like, no, the person who has all the beans wins. Oops, I win. In both Don't Break the Ice and Don't Spill the Beans, the fun part is breaking the ice and spilling the beans. So we try to set out, all right, Gabe, in this round, are we trying to get the most beans? Are we trying to break the ice? Or are we trying to do it the other way? And try to like kind of decide just so the point of a lot of the kids' game is, are you able to follow rules? Yep, right.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it for me is like when we're doing that, I'm trying to teach him like the social contract of gaming.
Yeah.
Like I said, like the rule is this, but if we all agree that the person who gets the most beans wins, then we can make that be our rule, and that's okay. We can play the game like that. But maybe next time when you play with someone else, they're going to want to play by the rules that are on the box that say, like, don't get any beans or whatever. And, like, trying to teach him that so that, like, if he ever is sitting at a D&D table with his friends or whatever, like, he doesn't break that social contract without, like, thinking about, like, oh, like, we agreed that this is how this is supposed to work. And, like, these are the expectations of this session or whatever kind of thing. So,
yeah,
I think he'll be an okay gamer. Right now, he changes the rules.
Someday.
Well, it's that empathy that Ellen mentioned, like the understanding what other people want. And, you know, I mean, as a kid, you can only service other people's desires so much before you get frustrated and you just want to have your own fun. But being aware of them is a foundational skill. And it seems like you're doing everything possible to make sure that that's always part of what's going on in the air around him.
Yeah, we definitely let Gabe set the rules most of the time, but we make it a point that we agree with them. Like, if that is how you want to play it, we agree that we'll play that way. And then sometimes if you say, no, we don't want to play that way, like, that's when it gets like, you know, kids. And we don't let him win all the time either, which is like a thing. Man, I remember my dad not letting me win when I was a kid, but like he never let me win. So like we do make sure that sometimes he can like win and know what that feels like. But I remember there was a thing for school. I don't remember exactly what it came up, but like they were racing or something. And so I taught him to say congratulations on your win and good game or whatever, depending on like if he wins or loses. I said it's important to be a gracious winner also. Yeah. And so like he'll try and say good game, but he'll be like, I beat you. Like he still has to throw it in there, you know, like good game, I won.
I mean, that's pretty advanced stuff. I mean, you think about like one way of thinking about a mechanic or rule is just an expression of a goal or desire, right? And being able to engage with that language in all types of different contexts through all types of different games, some with other people, some without other people, you know, and being able to play around with those and express them in different ways. That's good stuff. That's good human stuff. It requires a lot of practice. Yeah. You know, and Gabe sounds like he's doing great. There are like some adults that can do that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid, like me and my brother and my dad would play like random Mario Party mini games and stuff. And I'm probably misremembering this, but I remember my dad not being very good. So I think he never let us win, even if he wanted to. And like even at that age, like I was pretty competitive, so like I would look up. We had like a strategy guide, I think, for that game. So I would look up like the strategy on like how to do this mini game the best or whatever, and then I knew that strategy, and my dad probably didn't because he had a full-time job and was a parent, and so didn't want to spend all this time trying to beat his child in a mini game. Understandably. But like I just remember that because like I guess like I learned because I think like I wanted to beat my brother and I wanted to beat my dad. I like learned to, look into and understand how to play this game well and be good at it. So I like learned how to acquire skills, I guess, for things that I wanted, which I think is important. Sure. And it sounds like that's like similarly to how like Gabe is approaching it. Although I guess like he's also approaching it in a way where like he could change the rules that he wins. It's still an aspect of it, I guess, right? Like that's cool.
Yeah, I mean we're kind of getting to that age where like rules are sometimes fluid. There are things you're not allowed to do in school that you can do at home.
Yeah.
And there are, like, yes, sometimes Grian says a bad word on his Minecraft videos, and you can do that in his house, but you're not allowed to say that word.
So I've been building on that though for like a long time with the ECFE classes. Like one of the skills that they gave me that I'm forever thankful for is that's okay. That's a rule in their house, but in our house, we ... So it's like, okay, so if you go to someone else's house, you should still follow our house rules, but that doesn't mean that they have to. So you don't have to stop them and correct them at their house. But like, if someone comes to our house, I'm going to expect them to follow our house rules too. So like, there will be things that they can't do that maybe they do at home. And like, if they can't follow our house rules, I might have to send them home, like stuff like that, where it's like there are different rules that apply in different situations to different people. I think he's getting that, which hopefully works out.
Yeah. Life lesson. Yeah.
ECFE, that's
early childhood family education.
Yep.
Yeah. Different rules in different contexts and different consequences if you break them.
Yeah.
Gosh, life is so complicated.
Yeah, I mean that's tough for adults, probably, let alone a 4-year-old. So,
well, kids always have a difficult time understanding fairness, because and then when it's drawn for them, then seeing something that doesn't read with that model can shake them, right? And it's like because like kids don't like why. That's why they ask why all the time, like why, because like things in being arbitrary can frustrate them, and they're always searching for understanding, right? Because they are like, and so that teaching that context is an enormous challenge, because they have to fight kind of their own what they see in the world. They have to and think of things in more of an abstract, larger sense, which requires an emotional intelligence.
Sense making is multifaceted and difficult, which is why it takes us with our large brains such a long time to reach, quote unquote adulthood. Complicated ways of thinking about a complicated world. And it's interesting what you were saying, Mark, like this is getting a little more philosophical and not necessarily about game development, but maybe by the end of my rambling, we can tie it back. Like kids do expect everything to make sense. And I feel like one of the mental milestones of adulthood is like, you're like, yeah, maybe it does, but I can't get all the way there. I'm just doing the best I can. Everyone else.
There's a facet to it too. It might make sense, but if it's not fair, you have to accept that too. Because like as an adult, I understand why a lot more people have more money or more things or more whatever abilities, more like rules that don't apply to them. I don't like it. But I deal with it. Like as a kid, it's a lot harder to deal with stuff when you know it's not fair. It's like, well, that's not fair. And like as a kid, you have that expectation that life is fair still, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And as a kid, I mean, if you grow up in a loving home like Gabe does, also things are weighted in your favor. And so,
yeah, that's true.
So that feels fair.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's like the one lesson that I remember strongly from growing up is my dad would drill in our heads that life is not fair. Which I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing to like drill into your child's head, but like I think it it's part of that emotional intelligence thing. Like you learn, then you understand that like some people just have more things than others. And
Yeah,
that's how it is.
Well, to fulfill Ellen's promise to bring it back to game design,
Yes.
like one of those things about like designing games that are suitable for kids is to think about how it impacts them in that dimension, right? And like, is that something that's worth really digging into as a designer, or is it something that maybe it's because so many games do that as a consequence of telling rich stories or providing interesting tools or mechanics, and maybe the more prescriptive they can be, the less effective they can be. I don't know. What do you all think about like how to make that work as a designer?
Boy, that's an interesting question. I think a lot of that stuff kind of does tend to come up naturally. I have never thought to do something like that in one of my own games, other than like, I mean, other than touching on it through the story of the game, you know,
Yeah.
the characters in the game could have discussed something like that or struggled with something like that. I think it could come up there. In terms of like mechanical, gameplay mechanics, things that would touch on that. Yeah, I don't know. That's really interesting.
Yeah. I can see myself in particular just spinning in circles, trying to do something like that when it might be more effective to not think about it as much.
Sometimes that's the best way, even if it's not the way you want to do it.
Because it is so hard to engineer stuff like that. You kind of just have to like give yourself a good environment and set up your own tools and workflow to like I don't know, to have that in mind as you work and not necessarily try to check a box. I think that's Ellen. You could probably speak to how that works in like learning instructional design. Like you kind of can't like just tell people this is the lesson, right? It's not as effective at actually teaching something.
I think you can often explicitly talk about why, if the your learner, your person, your user has knowingly opted into a learning experience,
Right.
like it's again about expectations and consent. Like I think if they've opted into a game and they expect it to be entertaining and fun, and they happen to learn some useful things along the way, great. You might not be able to get away with like an explicit like voice of like an explicit instructional voice in that kind of experience, though, because it's not necessarily what people signed up for. It's not fair, maybe, to use the language that an almost 5-year-old would say. But I was just thinking about that. I think it really depends on what you're quote unquote trying to teach, and what you want the outcome of that teaching or learning to be for the person who's doing the learning. But I definitely think that, interactive, I mean, this should not be a surprise to anyone. I think interactive learning experiences are more effective and have longer term impact on a person's learning and knowledge and so on and so forth than like a passive one. So, there's lots of aphorisms out there, like you have to tell someone 7 times before they remember it. Well, I guess, I don't know, it's probably not 7, it's probably not an even number. But yeah, if you're only telling somebody something, you're not helping them learn the thing that's important in context. You're not helping them experience it. And so I think if you have an interactive experience, even if it's not explicitly a learning one, and this is why I asked that question about conversation, right? Even if you have a game that wasn't intended to be a learning experience, like explicitly, and somebody plays it and they have all these thoughts and experiences and ideas that were generated through their experience of that game, that's like rich material for conversation. And you can draw a lot of like important thinking and learning out of that in conversations around that game. I don't know. There are some games that I think are used that way, but I don't see a lot of games in like the entertainment space that are specifically designed to like be talked about later.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Something to think about. That was also rambly. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's true though, you can tell someone something however many times or whatever. I remember that's one of the things too. They mentioned like for a kid to learn something and like have it stick, it has to be like in the correct context, and it's like 1,000 times or something. Like it's a huge number. Like it's not something that you can just be like, I mean, I told him 5 times, we've done it like repeatedly. Like it's a huge number that like you have to be consistently repeating in the correct context, the exact thing that you want them to know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
Gotta practice with stuff.
Lots of practice.
And that's not just something parents tell each other so that they don't feel so bad.
No, it's true. Psychology based.
Because I could see myself using that as an excuse all the time.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about yet, y'all, that you wanted to talk about?
I don't know. We're really upset at Microsoft's on the Switch account. We bought Gabe some coins so he could buy a mod for the Switch. And the coins all disappeared because we didn't have it tied to a Microsoft account. It was only tied to his Nintendo account. Yep. And I don't even understand what happened.
I don't either.
But boy, am I upset.
For as much as we complimented them, we wanted to get that one complaint in. Because it was like we spent like $20 to get him some mods that he wanted to play. And it was tied to his Nintendo account. But apparently you need a Microsoft account for them to remember the stuff that you buy. So that's one of those like game design as a family-friendly thing. As an adult, I don't understand how that didn't work out. As a kid, how is he supposed to know why he can't play the game he bought? I don't know.
I mean, even as a game developer, navigating shops and gem stores and microtransactions and multiple login accounts per game. I mean, it's common for us. Well, like you log into your Steam account, launch a game, then log into another account to play it.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And it's overwhelming for me to like manage that for Gabe's stuff.
Yeah. And I mean, you are active parents in Gabe's gaming life.
Right.
So like you're best suited to make that make sense. Like you have all the things going for you and it still is ridiculous.
Right? Yes.
Yep.
So.
Right. So it's not, I mean, there's a real lesson in it. It's not just about like the game design. It's about the UX and the sort of the environment and all of the logistics of, and like targeting which platforms and cross-platform compatibility and cloud saves and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like that. It's an increasing part about making an experience that works for families.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely can be more accessible the less I have to log in and remember there's additional logins and go, I thought we already logged into that.
Yeah.
So, for listeners who are interested in learning more about your game development work and maybe about Verdant Skies, where can they find you on the internet?
Well, you can find me at Twitter at Kortham, Kortham.
And I'm also on Twitter at Beth Korth, BETHKORTH.
Perfect.
No Twitter for Gabe yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. He's got a Gmail account just so he can log into stuff. But that's for us for the next couple of years.
I'm looking forward to getting a bunch of fart joke tweets.
Yep.
We'll be sure to let you know first, Stephen.
Thanks.
Well, thank you both for returning to the program, and I expect to see you at least in around our 300th episode, if not sooner.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
It's always a pleasure.
And that's our show. Check out our newly revamped website, nicegames.club, for show notes and links to resources on today's topics. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode and on our programming in general. Go to nicegames.club/feedback and tell us what you think. You can also get in touch with us on Twitter at nicegamesclub, where Dale tweets about game dev resources and the golden rule of game development. Or you can email us through contact@nicegames.club. Please, no fart jokes. Not yet. Want to support the show? There are so many ways. Give us a review on your favorite podcast app, tell your friends about your favorite episodes, join us on Discord by visiting nicegames.club/Discord, and now we're on Patreon. As a patron of the show, you'll enjoy bonus content, extra jokes, and more. sign up at patreon.com/nicegamesclub.
So, until we start again, remember to
Play nice
and make nice.
All right, Ellen, you got to do the whole song now.